I was an ordinary maid, supporting my younger siblings through adulthood with money earned by working myself to the bone. My siblings did me proud. One became the top scholar and married the Grand Tutor's daughter, the other wed a prince and became a prince's consort. At 25, the Marquis finally deemed me past my prime and released me. Overjoyed, I sought out the top scholar and the prince's consort, begging them for funds to buy land in my rural hometown for my retirement. What I never imagined was that this journey would lead to my death. For over a decade, they drained me dry. Now, finding me undignified, they ruthlessly erased every trace of my existence. What they never imagined was that I was reborn. When my parents passed away that year, I turned 14. My sister was only 13 and my brother just 10. My second uncle told me our parents had left no inheritance, and he himself was too poor to support 3 growing children. He begged me to seek work at the Marquis's mansion. Little did I know that on my very first day there, I was sent to the bed of Liu Yaoguang, then still the heir apparent. My innocence was stolen. Only later did I learn the truth. The young heir had a preference for young, inexperienced girls. My uncle colluded with the Marquis's steward, deliberately deceiving me into entering the mansion to offer me up as a gift to please the heir. My father was a genius scholar, and my mother was the daughter of a teacher. As their daughter, I should never have endured such humiliation. I resolved to go to the Ministry of Justice, strike the drum of grievance, and sue my second uncle and Liu Yaoguang. On the day the ministry rendered its verdict, I would take my own life, never to tarnish my parents' reputation. I resolved to drag them both to hell with me. Yet my second uncle, Wen Rinyu, instead brought me to my brother's sickbed. Sure. Feel his forehead, it's burning hot as mountain rock. Your second uncle is powerless. Without money to buy medicine, this was the only option left. But I never imagined Prince Liu would force himself upon you. I thought he would at least wait until your coming-of-age ceremony. My younger sister wept beside me. Sister, our parents' bodies aren't even cold yet. We can't just ignore our brother's life or death. If you insist on suing Prince Liu, then I'll go sing in taverns, earn a coin or 2 in tips, and buy medicine for our brother. I gazed at Wen Rinjiao, who should have been studying in the academy but now lay at home with an unrelenting fever. Then I looked at Wen Rinchan, her tears falling like pear blossoms. Finally, gritting my teeth, I abandoned my plan to file a complaint with the Ministry of Justice. I returned to the home mansion and became Liu Yaoguang's bedchamber maid. Though Liu Yaoguang delighted in tormenting others, he was generous with money. Each time I received payment, I had it sent home through intermediaries. With the money I sent back, when Rinjiao's illness was cured, and he was no longer troubled by lack of food or clothing, he devoted himself entirely to his studies, becoming a disciple of a great Confucian scholar. He rose through the ranks to become the youngest top scholar in the imperial examinations of our dynasty. When Rinchan hired a female tutor to teach her the arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, after her coming-of-age ceremony, she blossomed into a woman of both beauty and talent. My second uncle intended to marry her off to a second-generation wastrel who had been hanging around Liu Yaoguang. I wrote to her, urging her to stay true to herself and cultivate her own reputation. Finally, at 18, she caught the eye of the 5th prince. Defying pressure from his mother's family, he married Wen Rinchan as his primary wife. I breathed a sigh of relief at last, plotting my escape from the Marquis's estate. Leaving Liu Yaoguang was actually quite simple. He felt no affection for me, no tenderness, nor any possessiveness. Once I grew old and faded, he would discard me like a worn-out straw mat. I ate nothing but greasy, rich foods daily and exposed myself to the scorching sun. Within a month, I had become dark and plump. I never rinsed my mouth, and opening it released a repulsive stench. Liu Yaoguang scolded me several times. Seeing my persistent refusal to change, He flew into a rage and expelled me from the Marquis's residence. When I left, I possessed nothing but a plain set of clothes and not a single copper coin. The prince's residence was inaccessible, and the top scholar's mansion held high standards. I returned to my second uncle's home and sent word to Wenrin Zhao and Wenrin Chan, urging them to return to discuss urgent matters. I had already made up my mind. After enduring over a decade of humiliation under Liu Yaoguang, staying in the capital would only bring shame upon Wenrin Zhao and Wenrin Chan. So I intended to ask them for money, requesting they send someone to escort me back to my hometown in Jizhou. There, I'd buy 100 or so acres of land, hire some laborers to work for me, and adopt 1 or 2 orphans from the orphanage. I'd live out my days as a landowner's wife in Ji Prefecture. Wenrin Shu, after doing such disgraceful things in the capital that bring shame upon our ancestors, how can you possibly show your face back in Ji Prefecture? Wenrin Zhao cut me off. I was utterly stunned. What do you mean by that? Wenrin Zhao snapped impatiently. Wenrin Zhao, you're 25 years old. Past your prime. Your virtue compromised. If you return to Jizhou, the entire Jizhou populace will spit upon the Wen family's ancestral graves. I was never registered as a slave. While in the Marquis's household, I remained confined to the inner quarters, never seeing outsiders. How could anyone back in Jizhou know what I did before? I turned to look at Wenrin Chan. Chaner, isn't that right? To my shock, Wenrin Chan spoke with utter disgust. If you don't want others to know, don't do it yourself. You willingly degraded yourself by submitting to him. Yet now you seek to deceive the world? How utterly base. My heart sank instantly. So this is how they truly see me. I retorted, I never chose to submit to him. He forced himself upon me. I did nothing wrong. How dare you call me base? All these years, haven't you spent the silver I earned by selling myself? You're the eldest sister. After father and mother passed away, their inheritance fell to you. Isn't it only right that you provide us with silver? For the first time, I saw such a vicious expression on Wenrin Zhao's face. If you truly didn't want to submit to him, then when he took your body, you should have died to prove your resolve. My hands trembled with rage. I would have died to prove my resolve. But you, Wenrin Zhao, were burning with fever. And you, Wenrin Chan, said you'd go sing for money. How could I dare die? And now? Now no one is stopping you. My heart grew utterly cold toward them. Finally, I could only say, give me some money. I'll leave the capital. I won't go to Jizhou. I'll go north to make my own way. We'll be even, and never see each other again. I have no slave registration. I've heard women in the north live freely. Perhaps there, I can live for myself. Wenrin Zhao and Wenrin Chan agreed, their faces dark. Yet that very night, as I struggled free from a nightmare, I saw Wenrin Zhao and Wenrin Chan standing by my bed. I could neither speak nor move. They must have planned this long ago, poisoning my supper. Wenrin Shu, you cannot blame us. How could a woman defiled for over a decade like you be worthy of being our elder sister? If outsiders learned of this, it would bring shame upon us. We've worked so hard to reach our positions today. We won't let you drag us down. Only your death will bring us peace. If an elder sister truly acts like a mother, then you deserve to die. With those words, they poured kerosene across the room before my eyes and set it ablaze. I watched them leave with my own eyes, watched the flames consume me, and died in agony. When I awoke, I had been reborn. Father and mother were killed by bandits on their way home. A woodcutter passing by discovered them and reported it to the authorities. After confirming their identities, the officials had 2 constables bring their bodies on a cart to our doorstep. In my previous life, I suppressed my grief, caring for my younger siblings while arranging my parents' funeral. Once they were laid to rest, I collapsed from exhaustion. During that time, Wenrin Chan and Wenrin Jiao wrote to summon my second uncle. Father and second uncle had long since divided the family estate. With this invitation from Wenrin Chan and Wenrin Jiao, he took charge of our household with righteous indignation. I was wary of him from the start and warned my siblings not to rely on him. I believed that once I reached 15 and came of age, I could reclaim control of the household. I never imagined they would conspire to send me away as a concubine to another man. Now that I've been reborn, I absolutely cannot let Uncle Wenrin come to our home. Without him here, handling Wenrin Chan and Wenrin Jiao will be effortless. Fortunately, the constables have just returned father and mother's bodies, so I still have time. Uncle Guan, go purchase 2 ready-made coffins and oversee the arrangement of the memorial hall. Mother Zhang, procure vegetables and tofu to prepare the funeral feast. Wenrin Jiao, I'll compile a list of relatives and friends. You shall compose the obituary notices, inviting them to mourn our parents. Wenrin Chan, you'll be responsible for sewing the burial garments for father and mother, and folding the paper ingots. With the experience from my past life, I handled these arrangements with ease. But in that previous life, my heart ached for my younger siblings, orphaned so young, and I didn't assign them any tasks. Now, upon hearing my instructions, Wenrin Chan was the first to look troubled. Sister, I've never sewn burial garments before. I'm afraid I won't do it well. If you can't do it, then don't, I retorted coldly. You were the daughter father and mother cherished most. They raised us all, yet they never feared they couldn't raise you well enough. They didn't stop raising you because they were afraid. Besides, I'm only 11 months older than you. If I can do it, why can't you? Wenchuan Chan flushed crimson, stung by my unexpected sharpness. Sister, she choked out, her eyes reddening. I never said I wouldn't do it. I'm just so grief-stricken. Why must you speak to me like this? Wenrin Jiao, confident as the family's sole male heir, saw Wenrin Chan's rebuff but remained undeterred in his scheming. He declared with righteous indignation, Sister, it's not that I don't want to write the obituary, it's simply that the master never taught us. Sister, why don't we just pay someone to write it? Fine. A flicker of delight crossed Wenrin Jiao's face. I continued, your schooling has been utterly useless. Once we've finished father and mother's funeral arrangements, I'll take you to the academy to retrieve your bedding and belongings. You won't be returning there. Wenrin Jiao was stunned. Sister, father and mother have just passed away, and you're already taking away my education? What will I do without schooling? Father and mother still counted on me to pass the imperial examinations and bring honor to the Wen family. You can't even write our parents' obituary. What official rank do you expect to attain? I said coldly. If studying is useless, then there's no point in continuing. Wenrin Jiao, true to his name, was spoiled and arrogant. Seeing my seriousness, he backed down, hastily promising to write the obituary properly. Still, he couldn't resist slipping in a veiled threat. I'll ask our teacher how to write the notice. But if he questions me, I'll simply say it was your request. He was still so young, his schemes so clumsy. I sternly replied, your schoolmaster is a filial man. If he learns you wrote the notice for your parents, he'll surely praise your devotion. Cutting the burial robes, folding paper ingots, writing the obituary, those simple tasks. They were exhausting due to the sheer volume. In my previous life, to save money, I handled everything myself and ended up collapsing from exhaustion. This time around, I entrusted these 2 tasks to Wenrin Chan and Wenrin Jiao, with no intention of interfering. I told them, you have 2 days to prepare. When the time comes, I will inform all guests that the burial garments, paper offerings, and notices were handled by you too, so that relatives and friends may witness your filial devotion. With that promise, Neither would dare cut corners or slack off. Sure enough, they pulled 2 all-nighters. Looking utterly exhausted, dark circles under their eyes, they handed me 6 sets of burial garments, 2,000 paper ingots, and 173 obituary notices. The garments were tailored perfectly, the paper ingots folded exquisitely, and every obituary notice bore neat, orderly handwriting. They looked at me expectantly, waiting for my approval so they could return to their rooms to rest. I had Jean-Ma from the kitchen bring them 2 bowls of ginseng soup. Smiling, I said, "Drink up. Then go kneel in the memorial hall to keep vigil for father and mother." When Rinjiao and when Rinchan broke down, their voices hoarse, they shouted at me, "Sister, we're exhausted. Can't we rest?" I feigned surprise. Father and mother passed away suddenly. To give them a proper funeral. Who in this house isn't exhausted? As their children, can't you even endure these few days? Is that acceptable? Zhang Ma, who had watched us grow up, couldn't help but back me up. Second young miss. Third young master. Father and mother cherished you so much when they were alive. For you to refuse to keep vigil for them is truly unacceptable. The siblings, young and sensitive, flushed crimson at her words and protested. Who said we refused to keep vigil for father and mother? Supporting each other, they shuffled toward the funeral hall. They looked utterly drained. In just 2 days, they'd grown noticeably thinner, their vitality and spirit fading. But so what? The memory of my past life hardened my resolve. To save time, I arranged for a 3-day burial for father and mother. This was an old custom passed down by the elders. After death, the body was kept for 3 days, 7 days, or half a month. I feared a longer vigil would bring Uncle Air's family calling, forcing me to juggle funeral duties and his demands, leaving me no room to breathe. On the 3rd day, relatives and friends began arriving. I praised Wen Rinjiao and Wen Rinchan's filial piety, showering them with flattery until they knelt stiffly before my parents' coffins, wailing and burning paper offerings. Then came the funeral procession. As the only son, Wen Rinjiao was to carry the urn at the head of the procession. To demonstrate his devotion, I specially ordered an 18-pound ceramic basin. When Wen Rinjiao lifted it, his hands trembled. I solemnly instructed him, the basin must be smashed only after father and mother are laid to rest. Hold it securely. Wen Rinjiao dared not refuse. He looked to Wen Rinchan for help. Wen Rinchan herself was utterly exhausted and dared not speak for him, merely turning her head away. I chuckled inwardly. That sister and brother who seemed so close in my previous life, apparently their bond wasn't as strong as it seemed. By the time we reached the chosen burial plot and the laborers began digging the grave, Wen Rinjiao was already staggering. I glanced over and saw Wen Rinchan had walked over to him. She whispered to Wen Rinjiao, "Just endure a little longer. Didn't we send the letter? Once second uncle arrives, our good days will come." Wen Rinchan spoke softly, thinking I couldn't hear her from over 10 paces away. But she was mistaken. Those 10+ years by Prince Lu's side had taught me to read lips without formal training. Through constant observation, watching Wen Rinjiao and Wen Rinchan reconcile, I couldn't help but sneer coldly. The siblings had delivered their letter remarkably fast. We'd barely returned home after burying our parents when Uncle Wenren and his family arrived. Imposing and imposing, blocking the entrance to our house. Wenren Shu, how dare you bury my elder brother and sister-in-law without permission? Wenren Yu's tone was anything but friendly. I saw it with my own eyes. My younger siblings exchanged glances, their faces radiant with delight. In my previous life, I believed their warm welcome to second uncle stemmed from youthful innocence, a lack of understanding of human treachery. Reborn into this life, I now know, wolves lurk within their hearts. They long to join forces with Wenren to devour my very marrow and crush my bones. Second uncle, you've finally come. My eyes reddened as I threw myself forward, sobbing, grabbing Wenrinyu's sleeve to wipe my tears and snot. Suppressing my nausea, I clung to him like a fledgling bird returning to its nest. Acting coy. Second uncle. Father and mother died suddenly. I had to deal with the magistrate's office to urge them to catch the murderer, handle the funeral arrangements, and care for my younger siblings. I'm only 14, you have no idea how scared I was. Now that you're finally here, I finally have someone to lean on. A flicker of surprise crossed Wenrinyu's eyes, but he quickly composed himself, softening his expression to comfort me. My dear child, you've suffered. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Wenrin Jiao and Wenrin Chan about to speak. I hurriedly added, I'm not suffering. Jiao and Chaner are the ones who've truly endured these past days. Hearing this, those around us immediately praised me as a good eldest sister. It's funny, in my previous life, I collapsed from exhaustion at father and mother's graves and never received such lavish praise. Wenrin Jiao and Wenrin Chan could only change their tone with darkened expressions. Sister, we're not suffering. You're the one who's been through so much. Second uncle Wenrin Yu, acting as the senior, bowed to the distant relatives and neighbors, thanking them for helping me arrange the funeral. Seeing this, the relatives and neighbors also took their leave, intending to return home. Wenrin Jiao and Wenrin Chan exchanged glances, their eyes twinkling with amusement. They believed that once home, behind closed doors, they could finally turn the tables with Uncle Wenrinyu backing them. Wait. I stopped crying and called out to the crowd. While all our relatives and neighbors are gathered here, I have something to announce. I hope you will all bear witness. Everyone halted in their tracks, amidst the stunned gazes of Wenrin Jiao and the others. I pulled a stack of papers and a set of keys from my sleeve. They were deeds to houses, deeds to land, and silver notes. Before everyone, I handed the stack of deeds and banknotes to Wenrin Chan. This is your dowry. You are 13 now. I entrust it all to you. Manage it yourself. Then I handed the remaining stack, twice as thick, to Wenrin Jiao. This is the estate left by father and mother. You must manage it well and prosper it, lest you dishonor our family name. Finally, I placed the set of keys into Wenrinyu's hands. Second uncle, as the elder, I know you're reluctant to leave our hometown, but with my younger siblings still young, our family needs your steadfast support. I implore you to remain in Xinjing henceforth and oversee our household affairs. In my previous life, I was consumed with arranging my parents' funeral rites and had no time to sort through the family assets. When I awoke from exhaustion, these matters had already fallen into Wenrinyu's hands. He claimed our parents left little behind, and I believed him. After rebirth, I immediately inventoried my parents' trunks and the ledger books in the accounts room. Only then did I realize the vast estate they had bequeathed to us. The room erupted in murmurs. They'd likely never seen a daughter hand over every last asset to her younger siblings after her parents' deaths, keeping nothing for herself. Sister, what do you mean by this? As the eldest, the family's assets should be managed by you. Wenrin Chan spoke with feigned concern, though her deathly grip on the deeds and silver notes betrayed her true feelings. I looked up at the assembled crowd and declared solemnly, my father and mother spent their lives doing good deeds, yet met such an end. Clearly, their merits were insufficient. Therefore, I have resolved to serve at the orphanage. Wenrinyu eyed me suspiciously. If you wish to work at the orphanage, then go. But this behavior seems more like you're severing ties with the Wen family. Because I intend to serve as an official at the orphanage. I flashed a smile. Once I'm a lady-in-waiting at the orphanage, I naturally can't manage the Wenrin family's finances anymore. The room erupted in stunned murmurs. The orphanage belongs to Princess Ronghua. She founded it out of kindness, though that kindness is scarce. As a result, the elderly and children there get only a bowl of thin porridge each day and wear black, stiff garments in winter. On the very first day after my rebirth, I took advantage of going to the national temple to hire monks to chant sutras for my father and mother. I secretly met Sister Chinke, who was praying at the temple. She was the favored stewardess by Princess Ronghua's side. I told her that if she appointed me as an official at the orphanage, I could not only ensure the children and elders were well fed and warmly clothed, but also generate additional income for the princess's household. The orphanage was merely the least prioritized of Princess Ronghua's holdings. Hearing my bold claims, Chinke said she would report back to the princess. That very evening, I received Princess Ronghua's letter of appointment. This was the future I sought for myself in this lifetime. In my previous life, 2 years after my parents passed away, Princess Ronghua divorced her consort and became the dynasty's first princess with her own fiefdom. Compared to men, she needed capable women far more. When Qingshu was so foolish, she was already 14, just months away from her coming-of-age ceremony, without a single coin of the family fortune or any dowry. Who would dare marry her? Her younger siblings were still so young. How could she abandon them to pursue her own future? What kind of future was the orphanage? Didn't you hear her? She was accumulating merit. Besides, hadn't she entrusted her siblings to her second uncle? Who would have thought the Wens left behind such a vast estate? When Rinshu is happy to take her share now. But what if she regrets it later? Even if she wanted to reclaim a portion from those 2 little ones, she'd have no chance. Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, when Rin Jiao and Wen Rinchan's hearts swelled with wild joy, their hands trembling with excitement. When Rinyu watched his sister and brother, his eyes clouded with gloom. I curved my lips in satisfaction. A 13-year-old girl and a 10-year-old boy, both raised in pampered luxury. Placing such immense wealth under the care of a wolf could spell nothing but trouble. To avoid any lingering doubts, I entered the house and retrieved the small bundle I'd prepared long ago, opening it for all to see. Inside were only a few plain garments. Then, in full view of the crowd, I walked to the street corner and climbed into the carriage that had been waiting there. The carriage was luxurious, not something ordinary folk could ride in. It was sent by the princess's mansion to take me to the orphanage. Inside sat Chinke, and beside her was a youth of 15 or 16. Chinke explained to me, "This is the princess's younger brother-in-law. You may address him as young Master Lady." He was curious to see who dared boast about turning the orphanage profitable, so he came along to observe. "Greetings, young Master Lady. I am Wen Rinshu, the young lady. I offer my respects." Feeling his scrutinizing gaze, I glared back without hesitation. Far from being offended, he grinned widely, baring his teeth. I had heard of his fame. In my previous life, Prince Lu was known as Xinjing's foremost playboy. Equally renowned was the city's foremost scholar, the young master of Lidi. While the common folk secretly cursed the crown prince, they would also lavish praise upon the young master of Lidi. The crown prince had suffered several humiliating defeats at the hands of the young master of Lidi. He would return home, smash vases, stomp his feet, and curse loudly. Every time this happened, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. I never imagined I would meet him in this lifetime, much less that he would possess such a temperament. The orphanage lay in a remote area. The carriage journeyed for a full 2 hours before finally halting at its gates. Chinke summoned all the orphanage's stewards and publicly announced Princess Ronghua's appointment of me. The stewards exchanged bewildered glances. I was only 14, young and frail. Naturally, they resented the idea of me standing above them. But I didn't care. I had ways to make them obey. Before everyone, I addressed Chinke. "I pledge on behalf of the entire orphanage that within 6 months, we will achieve self-sufficiency. Within a year, we will turn a profit. By the end of next year, we will present the princess's residence with a generous New Year's gift. If we fail, I and all the orphanage stewards will accept death as atonement." How dare you pledge on our behalf? One steward finally lost his composure. I replied, because I have confidence. All right then. Since you lack trust, I'll add one more condition. If I fail, my entire family will join all the orphanage stewards in atoning with our lives. The stewards. As the carriage departed, Prince Lidi stared at me with an expression that defied description. I thought you were a heroic woman. But it turns out you're just foolish. A thought struck me. Young Master Lidi, I said, how about a wager? If I succeed, you grant me one favor. And if you fail? He frowned. You'll be dead. What do I gain? I smiled sweetly. You gain some amusement. Young Master Lidi. Fine. I'll take your bet. My heart surged with excitement. Though in this life I'd entered the orphanage and was unlikely to be raped by Lu Yaoguang. As long as he lived, young girls like me would continue to fall victim to his cruelty. The gap between Lu Yaoguang and me was too vast, I couldn't touch him. But if Master Lidi was willing to act, it would be much simpler. After Qing Ke and Master Lidi left, I gathered all the stewards for a meeting. In these peaceful times, making money wasn't hard. But for a group of old folks and children, it was another story. So we couldn't just toil like common peddlers and laborers, that wouldn't bring in enough. We needed to earn from the wealthy, from the high officials and nobles. I told them. They stared at me blankly, thinking I was dreaming. I told them I knew many recipes for snacks. Taking advantage of the crisp autumn weather, they could gather wild ingredients from nearby mountains, prepare them into edible treats, and sell them at poetry gatherings to open up a market. Though skeptical, the weight of the military pledge forced them to agree to follow my plan. These snack recipes were all learned during my time at the Marquis's mansion. If even a picky eater like Lu Yaoguang loved them, why wouldn't the young people at poetry and flower gatherings? Under my leadership, the once dull orphanage suddenly came alive with activity. Was it tiring? Very. But life finally felt full of promise. Half a month later, Mother Zhang came to find me at the orphanage. Her eyes red. She told me all the elderly servants at the Wenrin residence had been dismissed. What did Wenrin Chan and Wenrin Zhao say? I asked. Zhang Ma replied. What could they say? They're too busy feasting and reveling. We advised them that during the mourning period for the master and mistress, they should be restrained and humble. But they wouldn't listen, even accusing us of deliberately trying to ruin their reputation for filial piety. Zhang Ma's words didn't surprise me. In my previous life, they too indulged in pleasure for a time. When I found out, I asked Lu Yaoguang for someone to discipline them, finally redirecting their playful minds toward their studies. This time around, I'll see just how far they'll sink without my intervention. Don't fret too much, second uncle is here. I smiled and said, if you have nowhere to go, Zhang Ma, stay at the orphanage and work with me. I have a place. Zhang Ma stammered. I wish to return to the countryside to care for my grandson. Miss, I didn't come solely to report matters. I have something to discuss with you. Something seems off with Second Master. Second Miss isn't even 14 yet. And he's already found a match for her. He even says he'll take Second Miss to meet the groom. He claims settling things early means if she can't be the heir's wife, she can still be his secondary consort. My heart skipped a beat at those words. Wenrin Yu still hasn't given up on currying favor with Lu Yaoguang. He intends to offer Wenrin Chan to Lu Yaoguang. If Chan were to follow Lu Yaoguang, she'd lose her virtue and reputation. Wenrin Yu would then have her completely at his mercy. He's my father's own brother, Chan's uncle. He couldn't possibly betray her. Mother Zhang, please stop imagining such things. I reassured her calmly. Upon hearing this, Zhang Ma said no more and took her leave. Several days later, I spent every last coin in the orphanage's account to buy clean, neat clothes for the older children. We carried our snacks made from wild fruits to the poetry gathering hosted by the daughter of the Vice Minister of Rights at her villa, hoping to sell them there. Attendees were all young ladies of privilege. Our snacks boasted vibrant colors, charming bamboo baskets, and delicate wildflower decorations, perfect for their tastes. Unexpectedly, at the gathering, I spotted Wenrin Chan. As she sipped tea, I noticed the bruises beneath her sleeves. Instantly, I understood, she had met with Liu Yaoguang. Wenrin Chan saw me too, but my coarse cloth garments and plain attire must have made her feel embarrassed, for she pretended not to recognize me. The snacks sold by the children were indeed a hit with the young ladies. The generous tips they freely gave were sums of money the children had never seen before. Fortunately, they were well trained, accepting the money with neither humility nor arrogance, bowing their heads in thanks. The daughter of the Vice Minister of Rights, upon learning I was a lady-in-waiting appointed by the Duke of Ronghua and seeing how much everyone enjoyed our food, called me over to speak. She asked if our orphanage could handle the pastries for her mother's birthday banquet this month. I hadn't expected things to go so smoothly. I steadied myself and inquired about dietary preferences and restrictions, jotting down details while explaining what pastries we could prepare and how rare the ingredients were. Such is the nature of wealthy households, they crave novelty and rarity. The young ladies were charmed by my words and, in turn, praised my proper demeanor, remarking that it was no wonder I'd been appointed a lady-in-waiting at such a young age. She is my elder sister. Wenrin Chan, who had been attending the poetry gathering alone and feeling neglected, could no longer sit still upon seeing my popularity. She spoke up, stating that her visit to the orphanage was for charitable purposes. Oh! The noble lady's eyes flashed with mockery as they asked her, "You're her sister, can you make pastries?" We're different," Wenrin Chan stammered. "At home, I'm always being waited on." As she spoke, she watched me nervously, afraid I'd expose her. The noble ladies burst into mocking laughter. On the way back to the orphanage with the children, the humiliated Wenrin Chan blocked my path, unwilling to let it go. She scolded me in frustration. "Sister, could you please stop doing things like this?" Second uncle worked so hard to get me an invitation to the noble lady's poetry gathering. "What you did just embarrassed me terribly. They wouldn't have known I was your elder sister if you hadn't called me," I replied coldly. Wenrin Chan's face flushed red and white. After a long moment, she suddenly spoke to me haughtily. "Sister, you probably don't know, second uncle has arranged a match for me. The young master is quite taken with me. I'm destined to be a prince's consort. Just you wait and see." With that, she turned and walked away arrogantly. I didn't know what she wanted me to see, but I knew she was foolish. At month's end, I took the children to deliver pastries to the Ministry of Rights Vice Minister's residence. The Vice Minister's daughter pulled me aside and told me she'd heard rumors that Wenrin Chan, barely 14, was already seeing the Liu Crown Prince. "That day she called you elder sister. You'd best keep her in line," Miss Zhou said. I shook my head. "I am her elder sister, but I am also a lady-in-waiting to Princess Ronghua. Serving as a lady-in-waiting means I cannot dwell solely on my family. When I left the Wen household, I left without a single coin to secure my younger siblings' futures. Now they have their second uncle to care for them, it's not my place." Miss Zhou sighed. "You've had it tough." A month later, Wenrin Chan openly accompanied Liu Yaoguang on outings as his sworn sister, showing no hesitation under others' gazes. Hearing the noble lady's whispers about her, I knew Wenrin Chan had completely lost all shame. In my previous life, I spent my hard-earned money hiring the finest tutors to teach her music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. This helped establish her reputation as a talented scholar, allowing her to blend seamlessly into the circle of noble ladies. This time around, she had nothing. Unable to endure the noble lady's ostracism, She pinned her hopes on Liu Yaoguang. She reasoned that since Liu Yaoguang adored her so much, she would marry him as his heir's consort sooner or later. Thus, there was no difference between uniting with him early or late, she could elevate her status sooner through him. Truly, how foolish. Another month passed. When Rinchan paraded through Xinjing flaunting the new headdress Liu Yaoguang had gifted her, I gathered the administrators of the orphanage to tally the silver earned during this period. It was enough to provide every resident, young and old, with 2 sets of winter clothes stuffed with fresh cotton, plus 10 cartloads of grain and 2 pigs. Together, we would celebrate a truly bountiful new year. On New Year's Eve, Qin Kai came to visit us, and the young master of Lidi followed. He stared in astonishment at the transformed orphanage, his gaze toward me now tinged with admiration. I seized the moment to remind him, "Don't forget our wager." Li Dui Gongzi replied, "No need for wagers now. I believe you can do it. Just tell me what you need me to do. Name it. If it's within my power, I'll see it done." "Not yet." I shook my head. Li Dui Gongzi said, "Very well. When the time comes, have someone bring this jade to my residence to find me." With that, he handed me a piece of jade. I accepted it. Then I heard him add, "Is Wenrinjiao your younger brother? You two don't look like family." "What do you mean?" I asked. He replied, "At such a young age, he's already a spoiled brat. He's quite the expert at cockfighting and dog breeding." "Does he gamble too?" I inquired. Lately, I'd only heard news about Wenrinchan, I hadn't heard anything recent about Wenrinjiao. But it's obvious that Wolf Wenrinyu cultivated Wenrinjiao in the last life precisely because they had no conflicting interests. He could use Wenrinjiao to build a good reputation, and Wenrinjiao's success would benefit his own branch. This life, Wenrinjiao holds immense wealth. The simplest way for him to seize it is to ruin Wenrinjiao. Who cares about reputation now? Soon enough. Li Dui raised an eyebrow. Several young nobles he'd been socializing with lately shared this particular inclination. I nodded. Not interfering? I nodded again. A meaningful smile flickered across Li Dui's face. But he said nothing more. After the new year passed, spring arrived swiftly. Spring was a splendid season, and the young nobles and ladies of Xinjing hosted countless poetry gatherings and flower festivals. I no longer needed to take the children from the orphanage to peddle our homemade snacks. Thanks to the reputation we'd built last autumn and winter, the orphanage's snacks had gained some renown in Xinjing. Wealthy families hosting banquets would now send people to the orphanage to place orders. The orphanage's administrators had come to fully respect me. Unnoticed, I had gained authority. Even Qin Kai, when visiting the orphanage, no longer treated me with the same casualness as before. On the flower festival, I selected 4 quick-witted children to accompany me to the princess's residence to present gifts. We had intended to leave after delivering the offerings, but Qin Kai suddenly emerged, announcing that Princess Ronghua wished to receive us. Princess Ronghua, already in her 40s, said little upon seeing us. She merely studied the 4 children closely before rewarding each with a piece of cake. She said to me, "You manage the orphanage well. All my ladies-in-waiting now bear my official seal. Follow Qin Kai shortly to collect one for yourself." Suppressing my overwhelming joy, I accompanied Qin Kai to retrieve the seal. Once outside the princess's residence, I could no longer hold back. Hiding in a secluded alley, I cried freely. The 4 children stood beside me, clutching their pastries, unsure what to do. "Sister, are you sad?" they asked me. "No. I'm happy," I replied, sniffling. Since my rebirth, I hadn't been entirely confident. Though I appeared composed on the surface, my heart was filled with anxiety. I didn't know if my relentless efforts, sleeping only 2 hours each day, would bear fruit. Nor could I be certain that the choices I made in this life wouldn't lead to an even more tragic fate than my previous one. But today, my hard work finally paid off. Princess Ronghua had given me her official seal, making me a lady-in-waiting she recognized. Though in this world, women could not be enfeoffed as marquises or nobles. As a lady-in-waiting acknowledged by Princess Ronghua, I could accompany her to her fiefdom in the future. I would help her manage the domain and oversee its local officials. Even a powerful figure like Liu Yaoguang wouldn't dare touch me. Wiping away my tears, I told the children with reddened eyes, "Today is a good day. Sister will take you to buy candy to share with everyone back home." Outside the candy shop, I encountered Wenrin Chan. She too had been wronged. Her eyes red. Upon seeing me, she hurriedly turned away. I knew what had happened to her. At this time in my previous life, a merchant had presented Liu Yaoguang with an orphaned girl, and Liu Yaoguang had taken great delight in her. When Rinchan must have realized that despite giving everything, she wasn't Liu Yaoguang's only one. Her dream of becoming his consort was shattering. Back at the orphanage, after distributing the candy, I went to the kitchen. In the evening, a steward came to tell me a young woman outside claimed to be my sister and wished to see me. I was somewhat surprised. "Take her to the pavilion," I ordered. I wanted to see what nonsense Wenrin Chan intended to spout at this moment. Soon enough, I learned her purpose. She believed Liu Yaoguang's affection for the orphan girl was merely novelty, and wanted me to seduce Liu Yaoguang to help her secure his favor. "Are you out of your mind?" I was stunned. When Rinchan retorted defiantly, "Sister, if I become the crown prince's consort, won't you benefit too? You're suffering at the orphanage now. Even becoming his concubine would be better than your current plight." "Who said I'm suffering? If you were content, why would your eyes be red from crying?" "Me. You'd better get out of here fast. Or don't blame me for beating you up. What are you acting so high and mighty for?" When Rinchan stormed off, fuming. Later, I learned from Miss Li that when Rinchan had sent her cousin, Wen Rinyu's only daughter, to curry favor with Liu Yaoguang. Wen Rinyu discovered it midway and stopped her just in time. The uncle and nephew fell out over this incident. Wen Chuan stormed out of the Wen household and moved into the residence Liu Yaoguang had prepared for her. "If she weren't your sister, I wouldn't even mention her, it'd be beneath me." Miss Li said she really wasn't very bright. By moving out of the Wen household, she'd lost her chance to become Prince Liu's concubine. My feelings were incredibly complicated. Wen Rinchan is a year younger than me, just a few months shy of her 15th coming-of-age ceremony. She is now the same age I was in my previous life when I became Liu Yaoguang's bedchamber maid. In my past life, when Rinchan called me base, saying I willingly debased myself by submitting to others. If she were before me now, I'd truly want to ask, what does that make her? Compared to me, who is truly the lowly one? Days passed in a whirl of busyness. By mid-June, I took the jade pendant to see the Li Dui prince. "Your timing is unfortunate. I was just about to leave," he said. "No. It's perfect timing," I replied, lifting my face to meet his. "You promised to help me with something. I'm here to collect on that promise." "Speak." "I know you're heading out, passing by White Tiger Pond on your way to Waka Mountain. What I need you to do is bypass White Tiger Pond and take another route." In his previous life, Liu Yaoguang had suffered several defeats at the hands of the young master of Lidi. He dared only to kick and scream at home. This was not only because the young master was truly skilled, but also because the young master had saved his life. On this very day in the past life, after a quarrel at home, Liu Yaoguang rode his horse in a rage near White Tiger Pool and plunged in, man and horse alike. The place was remote and desolate, with his leg injured and the pool water bitterly cold, infested with biting fish. He would surely have perished had the young master of Lidi not happened by to rescue him. "Why?" asked the young master of Lidi. I couldn't tell him the reason. So I resorted to playing the fool. The renowned young master of Lidi wouldn't go back on his word. Would he? Who said I'd go back on my word? The young master of Lidi agreed to my request. I paid someone to keep watch at the entrance of the Marquis's residence. That night, the man came to the orphanage to report to me. He said, the young master of the home mansion was carried back, covered in blood. My heart pounded as I asked, is he still breathing? He replied, yes. Suppressing my disappointment, I dismissed him. I consoled myself, though Lu Yaoguang hadn't died this time. He was severely injured. The next day, I concealed my face and sought out an old woman who emptied chamber pots. She was distantly related to the Wenren family. Though Wenren Yu despised her, she fawned over him relentlessly, pretending to buy pastries. I deceived her by claiming to be Lu Yaoguang's maid. I hinted that Lu Yaoguang had set his sights on Wenren Yu's only daughter, Wenren Qiu, and had been scheming at home for the past few days to get his hands on her. Then, carrying the pastries, I made a circuit through the city, changed my clothes, and only then returned to the orphanage. The Wen family possessed a bottle of secret recipe healing medicine passed down through generations. Everyone in the household knew it was kept before the spirit tablets of father and mother. When Rin Chan, desperate to secure the position of crown prince's consort, upon learning Lu Yaoguang was injured, would surely seek Wen Rinjiao's help to steal the medicine. If I could think of it, Wen Rinyu surely could too. He was the kind of man who doted on his own daughter yet treated his brother's children with vicious cruelty. He would undoubtedly tamper with the medicine. Next, it would be up to this pack of villains to tear each other apart. All I needed to do was sit back and enjoy the show. The show came quickly enough. True to form, when Rin Chan sought Wen Rinjiao's help to steal the medicine, Wen Qingjiao initially refused. But he'd recently lost a fortune gambling. Wen Qingyu seized all his property deeds under the pretext of his gambling, claiming to hold them in safekeeping, yet withheld even pocket money for tea. Desperate to save face before his lowly friends, he agreed to help steal the medicine after Wen Qingchan handed over every last coin she possessed. The medicine was stolen that afternoon. That evening, when Rin Chan was arrested by the Marquis's household, I paid a kitchen helper at the Marquis's residence for the information. Lu Yaoguang was bitten all over by the fish in White Tiger Pool, with the worst injuries concentrated on his private parts. When Rin Chan delivered a healing ointment, hyping it as the most miraculous remedy under heaven, Lu Yaoguang believed her. Little did he know that after applying it, his private parts burned fiercely. It took several tubs of ice to ease the pain. By the time the burning subsided, he was already ruined. Furious, Lu Yaoguang had Wen Rin Chan arrested. I was so delighted I distributed sweets to the children at the orphanage once more. The Marquis's household had numerous male heirs. Lu Yaoguang was not the only one. With his disfigurement, he could never become the heir apparent. The Marquis's household would gradually treat him as a disgrace, a discarded pawn. His life was over. I heated a pot of wine for myself and drank it down in one satisfying gulp. Then a letter arrived, sent by the young master of Lidi. Inside were 4 words, heroine among women. I understood. He knew about Lu Yaoguang's injury and had guessed my hand in it. Lady Wenren, that young master of Lidi, could it be he's taken a fancy to you? The steward who delivered the letter asked jokingly. Don't be ridiculous. I shook my head. You'll come of age next year. Lady official. The steward persisted. It's time to consider marriage. Why the modesty? With your parents gone, you must plan for yourself. A concubine to a gentleman of Lidi's character and standing would be most fortunate. A woman must marry eventually. Do you intend to remain a princess's lady-in-waiting forever? As the old saying goes, 1,000 blessings, 1,000 joys, but marry poorly, and a lifetime is wasted. I furrowed my brow. In my past life, one question always puzzled me: why must a man's lifelong pursuit be achieving great deeds? while a woman's is merely marrying well? Had my parents passed away leaving behind a 14-year-old son, Wenring, you likely wouldn't have dared so easily seize our family estate. I refused to listen to this nonsense any longer. Go about your duties. I lit the candle and watched the letter burn to ashes before my eyes. The next day, when Rinchan arrived at the orphanage gates, her body covered in wounds, she pleaded with me, "Sister, Lu Yaoguang is going to beat me to death. Save me. I had no money. Merely accumulating merit at the orphanage. What power did I have to stand against Prince Lu?" I refused her softly. Didn't Prince Lu treat you well? Didn't you want to be his consort? How did things change so suddenly? At my slightest provocation, madness flickered in her eyes. It must be second uncle. He fears I'll become crown prince consort and seek revenge. So he plotted against me. He won't let me live in peace. And I won't let him live either. What will you do? Return and accuse him before Lu Yaoguang? No. I can't go back. If I return, Lu Yaoguang will beat me to death too. I have a plan. A glimmer of light flashed in her eyes as she looked at me. Sister. Since childhood, father and mother always had you look after me. You'll still take care of me, won't you? I remained silent. When Rinchan, however, left with absolute confidence. No sooner had she departed than Qing Kei's carriage arrived. Her Highness the Princess wishes to see you, she announced. I boarded Qingxua's carriage and arrived at the princess's residence for the second time. Meeting the princess. Wenren Shu, the princess said after a few polite exchanges. I intend to divorce my consort. I looked up sharply at her, astonished she would share such a secret with me. In my previous life, at this very moment, only 3 months remained before the princess and her consort divorced. My father the emperor has promised me a fiefdom. Though small, it far exceeds this princess's residence in size. I have witnessed your capabilities and trust your loyalty. I wish to send you to oversee the fiefdom, supervising local officials in constructing my residence there. Yet you are a woman, and still so young. So that's why. This is my chance. I hastily looked up at the princess and declared with unwavering resolve, Your Highness. I can do it. I will succeed. A smile flickered in Princess Ronghua's eyes. I shall have Qing Kei assist you and assign a squad of secret guards to follow your commands. Tell me. What else do you desire? My thoughts immediately turned to the elderly and children at the orphanage. I declared, when Rinshu asks for nothing else but that the princess entrusts the orphanage to Miss Li. She is the daughter of the Vice Minister of Rights, kind-hearted, and has been a close friend of mine for over a year. She takes a deep interest in the orphanage. Placing it in her care would give me peace of mind. And the children there could one day become your eyes and ears. Your Highness. The orphanage is now a tempting target. Without proper care, those elderly and children may face a grim fate. Agreed. Princess Ronghua consented, then sighed. You remain too kind-hearted. I smiled. My mother taught me that one must be kind. The handover of the orphanage was straightforward, but Qing Kei had many affairs to attend to, so I had to wait for her to finish. Half a month later, Wenren Chan intercepted me at the orphanage. Her eyes flashed with an inexplicably strange light. Wenren Shu. Where are you going? During this time, she had caused quite a stir. The people I had bribed kept feeding me information. After leaving me that day, Wenren Chan sought out Wenren Jiao. She demanded he accompany her to the Ministry of Justice to accuse their second uncle of seizing the estate left by their late brother and sister-in-law. Unexpectedly, Wenren Jiao had cracked the skull of a child prodigy at the academy. Hoping Wenren Yu would smooth things over, he urged Wenren Chan to drop the matter. Second sister. You're so selfish. If you hadn't insisted on treating Prince Lu's injuries, how could things have escalated to this? Couldn't you just endure it? Wen Chuan was enraged by Wen Jiao's attitude. The siblings came to blows. And only when Liu Yaoguang's men arrived did Wen Chuan flee in panic. Wen Rinchuan was a ruthless woman, unable to swallow her pride. That very night she set off with a torch to burn down the Wenren family's woodshed. She was caught by Wen Rinyu, who had risen for the night, beaten severely, and left for dead in a back alley. My men were dispatched to check if she was dead or alive. But she suddenly woke up herself. She cried and laughed hysterically for a long while, then ran alone to the fifth prince's residence, demanding to see him and claiming she was his consort. The fifth prince didn't recognize her at all. After learning her identity from his subordinates, he sent her to the marquis's residence. I must travel to another region to construct a residence for the princess. I looked at Wen Rinchuan calmly and asked the question I'd been wanting to ask all along. Now that you have the memories of your past life, do you still think the me from that life was lowly and self-destructive? So you do have the memories of your past life. I ended up like this because of you. What did I do to you? I left the Wenren residence penniless and did nothing. You becoming what you are now, isn't that just what you deserved? I said with satisfaction. Wenren Chan, this is your retribution. Wenren Chan suddenly knelt down, her eyes red, pleading with me, sister. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I shouldn't have been such an ungrateful wretch. I've suffered enough now and accepted my punishment. You're my sister, you can't just abandon me. Wenren Chan, I'm not a fool. I pulled away from her grasp. Lady official, Lord Lidi is waiting for you in the rear courtyard. After dismissing Wenren Chan, the steward informed me. Walking into the rear courtyard, I saw Lord Lidi, dressed in a tattered blue robe, standing there dusty and weary. His eyes lit up when he saw me. Are you leaving? He asked urgently. I nodded. Will you return? He pressed. I shook my head. Who knows? Perhaps I'll come back on official business. Perhaps not. Li Dui sighed. His gaze focused yet gentle. I've taken a liking to you, he said. Could you stay in Xinjing? Stay for what? I asked him earnestly. To be your wife? He nodded. My refusal was firm, still no. Becoming a man's wife is easy. But serving as a female official, not everyone gets that chance. His expression seemed saddened. But after a moment's silence, he suddenly smiled and said to me, a heroine among women. The fief the emperor granted Princess Ronghuo was in Egret City, a place with only spring and summer. No autumn or winter. I often received letters from Prince Lidi. Never about romance, but sharing news from Xinjing. He told me Liu Yaoguang had lost his position as heir apparent. Wenren Jiao and Wenren Yu had fallen out, with Wenren Yu expelling him from their home. Wenren Chan had returned to Liu Yaoguang, who beat her badly. Yet she remained steadfast. She extracted money from Liu Yaoguang to fund Wenren Jiao's imperial examinations. To everyone's surprise, Wenren Jiao proved a child prodigy, sweeping all 3 top ranks consecutively to become the dynasty's youngest Shuangyuan. Fearing retribution once Wenren Jiao and Wenren Chan regained power, Wenren Yu rallied the commoners Wenren Jiao had oppressed during his arrogant years. They beat the Denwen drum to lodge formal complaints. The victim was the sole heir of the late emperor's grand tutor, whose family had fallen into ruin. He'd become a vagrant and had a dispute with Wenren Jiao over cockfighting, resulting in Wenren Jiao breaking his leg and blinding one of his eyes. Wenren Yu had used money to smooth things over for Wenren Jiao at the time. Wenren Jiao hadn't given it much thought. He never imagined this old grievance would resurface. Though now impoverished, this man's ancestors had served as imperial tutors. His lineage, upon scrutiny, still held royal connections. With him leading the charge, others wronged by Wenren Jiao stepped forward, collectively filing complaints against him. Thus, Wenren Jiao's top-ranked scholar status vanished. Enraged, he infiltrated the Wenren residence disguised as a servant and poisoned the kitchen. Into a pot of rich chicken soup, he poured a pound of arsenic. Not a single member of Wenrinyu's household escaped. The poison was administered by Wenrin Jiao, but the money for the arsenic came from Wenrin Chan. After the Supreme Court's investigation, they were sentenced to exile. After reading Lord Li Du's letter, I felt a pang of sorrow. But it was only a pang of sorrow. After my rebirth, I thought my hatred for Wenrin Chan and Wenrin Jiao would consume my entire being. Yet that was not the case. Every day, my thoughts were focused on how to do things better, how to gain more support and power, how to become a woman who could determine her own destiny. Seeing them reap what they sowed naturally brought me satisfaction. But my life held far greater joys than such petty matters. I never imagined this lifetime would bring another chance to meet Wenrin Jiao and Wenrin Chan. The rainy season was approaching. That day, while inspecting the maintenance progress of the dikes, I spotted a group of people shouting and bellowing as they approached from afar. It's constables escorting exiled prisoners. My subordinate reported. A pang of emotion stirred within me. As the group drew nearer, I recognized two familiar faces among the prisoners in their uniforms. Wenrin Shu. How did you end up here? Wenrin Jiao and Wenrin Chan exclaimed in shock upon seeing me. How dare you two wretched slaves address the lady official by her given name? Someone barked, lashing out with a whip. Only then did they notice the official robes I wore. I heard Princess Ronghua has a most capable lady-in-waiting. So it's you. Wenrin Jiao ignored Wenrin Chan, who lay sprawled on the ground, staring intently at me. Suddenly, he threw himself at me, weeping and pleading, "Sister, I was wrong. Save me. I'm father and mother's only son. If I die, the Wenrin bloodline will end." Wenrin Chan refused to be outdone. "Sister, save me. I'm still young. I don't want to die." What to do? I smiled warmly at them and said, "Your elder sister was burned to death by your own hands." Seeing I had no intention of saving them, they began cursing again. I felt no anger at all, for the constable's whips would soon silence them. And as for me, lady official, a young master from Xinjiang has arrived at your residence, awaiting an audience with you. The end.